All right, Melody Darian here, and we're talking with Bartow County Commissioner Steve Taylor. Been commissioner for quite a while.
Yes, I'm in my 13th year.
Okay, so we've got several things to talk about. First of all, in Cobb County, there's a little bit of dissension between the school board and the county commission because the county commission is approving a lot of multi-housing situations, and that's bringing a lot of kids. The school board then has to add more classrooms and raise more taxes. People aren't happy. So, with that in mind, where do you stand on the balance between multifamily homes and other types of development where the school system doesn't feel that kind of infrastructure pressure?
Yeah, well, first of all, Melanie, we have got a great relationship with our school boards, both city school board and county school boards. If you live in Bartow County, whether you're in the city or unincorporated Bartow, you still pay county property taxes. I represent all the citizens, whether you're a city school or county school. But now, when we look at zonings as far as multifamily goes, and all zonings really, residential zonings, the school board gets a notice way before the zoning meetings, before the planning commission meets or before my public meeting that gets final approval or denial. So we listen to our school board probably more than any other individual group because they're the folks that have to educate these children. So let's just say a large multifamily project comes up, and let's say it's Bartow County Schools is looking at it, and they send a letter back to the planning commission and say, we really want to oppose this because this school district can't handle those students that come from this group of townhomes, say, in this particular area. I would be very shocked and surprised if the planning commission approved that. And then I usually take the planning commission's recommendation. Don't have to and don't always have to take it when they do send a recommendation, but I strongly take those recommendations. And our planning commission does a great job also of working with the school system and make sure that they're on board with their decisions.
Now, there is a project, Chuck Shiflett was talking about this on his Facebook page the other day, off of Highway 20, I think 3,000
It's
units.
around 3,000 homes. I saw that. And these people are, I've already spoke to some of those representatives. They're a long way from getting that zoning done. And we've got to see that project. Our planning commission will take a look at it. I understand there's around 3,000 homes. They want to build a whole community. They want grocery stores, retail shopping out that way. And it's out east, on the very extreme east of Bartow County. In fact, part of that project, I think, might wind up being in Cherokee County. So it's Bartow and Cherokee County up next to the Corps of Engineers land around Lake Altoona. And that's where the development would be. I understand the roads would come out actually into Cherokee County. So a lot of people have to weigh in on this project. Number one is the school system once again. Number two, we listen to Cherokee County. They're our neighbors. We expect that Board of Commissioners to send us a letter either saying we're okay with this project or we're against this project because to be honest with you, we wouldn't want Cherokee County to approve a 3,000 home subdivision and then cut the roads into Bartow County, entering and leaving that big development. I wouldn't want our neighbors to do that to us, so they'll have a big say in that. The school system will have a big say in it. Of course, then you've got all the neighbors that live out in that area. They've got a say in that. So there's a lot ahead of this development before it can be zoned.
Now, let's talk a little bit about, I've got a few what I call controversial things to talk about. Let's talk about the first one, Spring Road, the data center. Kind of surprised a lot of
Spring Place Road.
Spring Place, yes. It kind of surprised people. It was supposed to come to you as a subdivision, but it got approved for a data center.
Okay, let's look at the history of that. So this property owner goes back since before I was commissioner. He had gotten turned down, I think, by Commissioner Brown several years ago to put logistics warehousing. The community says we've got enough logistics warehousing. All that warehousing out Cass White Road was zoned business part before I was even commissioner. I know I'm getting credit for a lot of warehousing getting built out there, but most all of that was surplus Anheuser-Busch property, and it was already zoned. So I'm not trying to kick the can down the road or accuse somebody else of doing things, but that's just the history of that. So this particular property was denied zoning. It was denied zoning on a higher density type subdivision. The neighbors come out against that. It was finally approved after maybe 4 denials. It was finally approved for a pretty dense subdivision out there, and the neighbors didn't really like that. So the owner and his attorney came before the meeting and asked for a different zoning. They wanted to try a data center. Now, this property that I approved for this 75-acre data center property, it's bordered on the south by commercial industrial type property. It's bordered on the west by Interstate 75, and on the north, it's bordered by a property that Georgia Power is taking to build a substation, and it was under condemnation, so they actually did a condemnation of 40 acres. So this property is surrounded by different entities. None of them is residential. And so some of the neighbors out there, and I asked a few of the neighbors, how do you feel about a data center? Had you rather have that or have all these homes and traffic out there? And everyone that I talked to said, I'll go with the data center any day. Now that data center it's bordered on 3 sides by those different properties, and it should be screened on the Spring Place roadside, whereas most of those neighbors will never know the properties,
I think
data centers.
The concern, because I've been watching the comments online, and people don't have as big a problem with the data center there as other places, but the question is what you did in that particular commission meeting legal? Of it was supposed to be.
Yes, it was legal. The planning commission meets, and like I say, this is a cross-section of the community, but the planning commission meets, and it's not a mandate for me to approve their zoning. They meet with a recommendation of zoning, and I take that seriously. Only very few times in my 13 years have I went against the planning commission. And so I took the privilege of being the commissioner, and I did change that zoning from what they approved. But that was at the request of the property owner, and I proved what I thought the community had rather than all those homes out there.
So let me just make sure and just because I've got some questions. I just want a little clarification here. So the fact that you changed it didn't have to be re-advertised or go through the process again?
No, that was a recommendation only from the planning commission for that large subdivision that was coming out there. So this property went through, and another reason I changed it was this property owner has went through so many different denials. He just had 40 acres of his property condemned by utility. I'm not on either side in that fight, so there'll be a court case later between the property owner and that utility to determine a value of that property. I'm not involved in that, but I did feel his pain somewhat, in his property, which was about 120 acres, is now only 75 acres because part of it's been condemned, and he's been denied zoning about 4 times already. So that was a decision I made. I hope it was the right decision. Sometimes maybe I don't make the right decision. I believe I decide on these issues what my heart tells me. If it's right, I think I've done my job, and I think I did the right thing by rezoning that to a data center. I don't think the neighbors will ever know it's out there, and so as far as the legal aspect goes, I'm very comfortable that it was a legal thing to do.
Do you think that process and the way it was handled eroded some faith people have in you as commissioner?
No,
Because I didn't get to speak
I
it,
don't.
but
I've had nothing but positive comments as far as that goes. The commissioner has to make tough decisions sometimes, and I realize that everyone doesn't agree with those decisions that I make. There's many over my 13 years here in office that I've had to make decisions that everybody's not happy with. It's part of the job. And when you leave a public meeting, sometimes one side is happy, the other side's not so happy. So I don't think at all that was the wrong decision at all. And if people don't understand that, I'm just sorry for that. So it's, I think I made the right decision. I've made a lot of decisions in the past that I know other people might not agree with, but I think the majority of the people in Bartow County do agree with that.
Now you mentioned warehouses, because I've seen a lot, because I'm online a lot, doing a lot of stuff. I see a lot online about people hate the warehouses. I know some, and I know you can't claim all of them. I know that some went up near Emerson, and they're just now starting to get, looks like 2 of them may have somebody moving in. The others have been empty. So a lot of people online say, well, we have a bunch of empty warehouses. We could have had something else. What's he doing with all the warehouses? Why the warehouses? And also, you can probably lump this into one question about the data centers, because now there's one, I think, that, and it wouldn't be in your jurisdiction, but I think there's one being built in Adairsville, might be under the city of Adairsville.
I think they're looking, there's a data center looking inside the city of Adairsville, and that will be up to the city council and the mayor to decide how that comes out. But I hear that there's one looking up there. I hadn't talked to the people that's looking, but I understand that there is a data center looking there. In other jurisdictions inside the cities, there's data centers that's looked.
Well, Bates Road is Cartersville.
The Bates Road is actually an unincorporated Bartow County Bates Road.
Okay.
The Switch Data Center, just west of Bates Road, is in the city of Cartersville.
But you approved, well, including the one at Spring Place, you approved also the one in Taylorsville. Approved the one that's going to be in Stylesboro/Taylorsville.
That is a big data center out on the Gaines family property.
Do you, and I don't know how much online you go or how much people are, do you feel that people are really kind of angry about these kinds of decisions, warehouses and data centers?
I don't read social media because I find that it's always negative. It's a downer to read that. It's negative. I don't believe it's real newsworthy. A lot of gossip goes on there and a lot of misinformation. I never get on social media. If you want the news, or if you're a citizen and just want the facts, just call me. Straight up. I've got an open door policy. You can call and talk to me on the phone, or you can walk in my office, and I'm happy to talk to you.
Do you feel that these kinds of things, I'm speaking specifically to warehouses, data center, non-residential type situations, are beneficial to the county, and if so, how so?
Of course they are. Okay, so the data center at the Gaines family farm is a $19 billion investment over a period of 10 years. I know it's not going to all get built just year one, and it's going to pop up now. They're on the tax digest for $19 billion. But if you do the math on those, that's a huge property tax pay. Just think if you take the Switch data center and the Project Bunkhouse, which is the one in Taylorsville, those two alone is probably, from what we understand, they could be over $40 to $50 billion in investment. Our complete tax digest right now is around $25 billion. So you could conceivably take the homestead exemption for residential way up, maybe even as far as the county goes, you could probably maybe even take it all the way to 100%. Now that's over a period of probably around 10 years, and I know I won't be the commissioner then. But the county revenues could grow to a point to where the homeowner could actually benefit from all this tax digest growing.
Well, that was my next question, because a lot of, and again, I'm kind of venting something, because we asked, what would you ask Commissioner Taylor, if you could, and not so a lot of people had comments. So one of the comments was, will we ever see a return on our taxes or lower taxes because of all this investment?
Of course, and I think that's a good question. That's a fair question. I think yes. I think the homeowner and the individual citizens should see a return back as far as the property tax they pay. It should start showing up pretty soon. Now, and I know this is a question you're about to ask me about taxes. And so the county did not opt out of the new legislation that was just passed by the legislature as far as property tax goes. So we opted in, or we stayed in as far as this law goes. And so we, as a county, are gonna abide by the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, inflation rate, have you. And that's all the property tax Bartow County should be able to raise their taxes. That's the maximum amount, is the inflation rate going forward. So if your assessment goes up, you should look out in your line item on your tax bill, and your property tax homestead exemption should also go up. You should exempt a fair amount of that assessment, because all we can claim, and I think last year it was around 3% as far as the CPI. So all the county should be able to go up is around 3% on the whole average Bartow County residential tax rate. Now, this don't apply to industrial. So you won't see big millage rate reductions in your residential property tax, because when you reduce the millage rate, it takes commercial and industrial, it takes that tax rate down. So if you leave the millage rate the same and the homestead exemption keeps raising, then you've got a discount on your property tax. And I think that's where our thinking and the planning commission's thinking's coming in. These big buildings that's out there, even though you, as you're saying, some of them are still empty, that's not up to us to fill those buildings up. The market's gotta drive that. Those buildings are still paying property taxes, even though I know on social media, a lot of people are saying the buildings are empty, the county owns them, they're not paying property tax. Number one, Bartow County does not own any of those buildings. Number two, they pay the full load of property tax. None of the logistics warehousing has any type of tax abatements. So they're paying their taxes, and they're not all full, but I don't really care if they're full or not, because once they fill up, the next complaints will be, look at all the tractor trailers that's on the road. So that alone should quell any rumors about these buildings are empty and they're not paying taxes. The buildings may be empty. Some of them are and some of them aren't. Some of the empty buildings have already been leased and a tenant hasn't moved in yet. So that's not up to the local government to make sure that those buildings gets leased up. That's the market that drives that. And I believe in the free market, and a group of investors are going to spend 30 to 50 million to build a logistics warehouse. I'm thinking they're working really hard to make sure they have a tenant for that warehouse. It's not the county's place to make sure that those buildings are full.
Now, one of the questions that has come up along with, well, am I going to see any benefit in my taxes, is, am I going to be see any benefit from all, I'm talking about this extra investment in Bartow County, am I going to see any benefit in infrastructure? As a county now, is that something that the county will use some of this investment for, to improve infrastructure? Because there's some concerns about water, some concerns about roads, some concerns about fire, and with all these constructions and stuff.
I think part of the investment that comes in, besides a tax savings, will of course have to go into infrastructure. I, for one, I'll be the first person to admit, we've got some traffic issues in Bartow County, and it's coming from a lot of the growth. But if you, part of that growth is pass-through traffic. If you look at the number of people moving into Bartow County for a job every single day, we have about 28,000 people coming into Bartow County just to work. On the other hand, we've got just a few thousand more, maybe around 30,000 people going outside Bartow County to work. So that's about 60,000 people that's moving around, that's either coming into the county to work or going outside the county to work. And then we've got all the other people that live here and work here. That's the biggest majority of the folks. So the traffic issues is real, and we need to address those. And thankfully, GDOT is working with us. We've got a couple of big projects coming on. I honestly think that the Rome-Cartersville connector, once it's built, I think, and that's 411 connected to I-75, I think that's going to be a big relief as far as especially truck traffic and a lot of car traffic too. The old Alabama Road, a lot of truck traffic comes right through downtown Cartersville. I think that's going to help a lot, and it should be completed within a year. And so there's other traffic issues. We know that we have bottlenecks around U Harley Road and Highway 113.
That was gonna be my question.
That's a big bottleneck, and I think that with the state partnering with Bartow County, that we need to address that. I personally think we need a flyover that connects to U Harley Road that goes over 113 where
Well, the
folks
train
coming out of
stops
U
and
Harley-
you're,
U Harley, right. The train, once the train, coal train, even if it don't stop, it moves so slow, and if it comes through at between 7 and 8 in the morning, we have major log jams out there. And don't think that my phone don't start ringing when that happens. So we get a lot of calls. That may be one of the top traffic congested areas in Bartow County. So it's got to be addressed. I realize that. I know the traffic's there. And a lot of people that's been commenting, I know, on your comments is talking about growth. And where the real problem is not the growth. A community needs to grow to survive. The real problem is the traffic. And once you're stuck in traffic for 20 minutes and you haven't moved very far, you're getting frustrated. I drive too, and I get the same way. So I know a lot of people's frustration is about traffic. I agree with them, and it's issues that we need to keep working on.
now you mentioned U Harley Road, and then I'm gonna ask a question about water, because we live in U Harley. So we see this, there's like 4 or 5 subdivisions going in. And that road is a 2-lane road, and we already have a lot of traffic, particularly around schools, around U Harley,
Okay.
which I know that's a city of U Harley. But what can or does the county propose to do in the county areas to alleviate traffic from all those subdivisions?
I agree with you. That U Harley Road is still growing. We, the county approved about 5 years ago the subdivision that's right behind Ladd's. That's a fairly large subdivision. The developer is gonna build the road, and he's already in the middle of building that road. It started a few months ago, between U Harley Road and Burnt Hickory Road. Now, that's not gonna make traffic go away, that's just gonna shift traffic to the people that wanna go north when they get on 113. Now they can have a cut through. That road will be very busy. Now, there's a couple of other subdivisions that's built out inside the city of U Harley, which I have no zoning authority over, but those subdivisions are coming on too, and they're gonna be using those same roads. Some of the people will move over to Sugar Valley and some to Mission Road, but there's still, most of that traffic in the mornings is either going to school or they're going to work. So, and some of that traffic is both. So, like I say, that's a bottleneck that we've got to work with the state on and get some relief out there. These traffic issues can't just be solved overnight. It's gonna take a while.
Are you working with the state to replace the bridge? Because I saw,
Well, the bridge is funded by the state. The bridge over the Etowah River, it's been long needed, it's gonna be widened. It's one of the oldest bridges in the state system that's within Bartow County. So this bridge has been talked about for many, many years. It's been kicked down the road a lot of times, and the reason is because of funding. This is gonna be a very expensive bridge.
any idea when
The
it's going to
funding is gonna be done by GDOT almost entirely. The county may have to put just a little money in as far as right-of-way acquisition, but GDOT is building that road, and we're so appreciative.
Any timeline?
It should be starting within the next year or so.
Okay. Now, the other question, getting back to taxes and tax assessments, I got mine the other day, tax assessment notice.
Congratulations.
Well, I'm probably gonna file an appeal,
That's right.
as is a lot of people. One thing people are talking about, including myself, is, well, you say taxes aren't going up, but then when you assess the property at a higher value, you're still gonna be paying.
Well, I was just talking about that.
Yeah.
When your assessment values go up,
Mm-hmm.
the state law says that our assessors have to assess those values at real values. Even though your property is going up so fast, it's gonna make your tax dollars go up. Well, the new legislation is helping the individual homeowners, and only residential homeowners that have a homestead can apply for this. But and I'm sorry, you don't apply for it, you're gonna get it automatically. So Bartow County opted to stay in as far as the abiding by the new law, which says if your property, if the CPI went up 3%, let's just use that number. If the CPI goes up 3%, and that's the inflation rate, then the county can only collect from this residential tax base that's paying that homestead. We can only collect up to a 3% maximum amount. So you'll look at your property tax line, and when your homestead exemption says $15,000 for a homestead in unincorporated Bartow County, or within one of the cities, you're getting a $15,000 homestead exemption. The rate above the 3% will show up in your homestead, so you'll have a higher discount than $15,000. That's off your net value, not off your fair market value, which means $15,000. Your fair market value at 40% is $15,000 as far as your homestead exemption goes. So that will be the net value of your homestead exemption should increase out there that will help offset your property tax. Now, this is not to be confused with the schools. Neither school system opted in, they both opted out of that legislation, which was allowed by law. So those school taxes, your homestead, with your school taxes, the homestead exemption will not go up. So you may have a higher increase than
Let me make
the
sure.
3%.
Let me make sure I understand. Joke there. So if you're, because I know, like last year, my property value went up like 15%.
Okay.
So the taxes also went up. So you're saying is even if your property value goes up, you're still not going to go up by the same amount of your taxes. You're only going to go up to 3%.
Okay. Your assessed value, let's say last year went up 15%. That was last year. So this year, let's say it went up, I'm just going to throw a number out. Let's say your assessed value went up 20%. You will be offset. All we can raise it as far as dollars go. Now, your assessed value is still going to be 20% higher. But as far as the dollars the county collects from you, I'm talking about Bartow County government, not the county tax commissioner, because he collects for the school systems and the cities and Bartow County. So Bartow County government, the government that I run here in Bartow County, we're only going to collect whatever the CPI says, which is about, I think it's a little over 3%, 3.1 or whatever. That's all we're going to collect, even though your assessment went up 20%. We're only going to collect that amount. So the legislature did that. I agree with them doing it. What we're basically saying is that Bartow County government's going to live within the inflation rate. That's it in a nutshell. And so the individual jurisdictions within every county in Georgia, that jurisdiction, whether it be a school board, a city, or a county government, everybody can decide, are you going to opt in with this legislation or not? So we decided to make that statement. We're going to live within the inflation rate. And so the school systems, I'm not getting into that's out of my lane, and I refuse to comment on whether the school system should or should not do it. That's a
Well, the vote is coming up in November.
discussion for the school systems and the school board and the superintendent.
Yeah, well, the vote's coming up in November on that bill. That'll determine a lot of that.
Right.
Okay, those are the questions I have. Did I miss anything? Is there any other things you want to clarify?
I don't think you've missed anything. I know that social media and sometimes people get carried away. And I think, and I want to think that it's just because a lot of people are struggling right now. I think if you're a young family and you're getting hit with inflation, you're getting hit with raising kids and buying groceries and doing whatever life demands of you, and people get frustrated, and so they look at their leaders, and I'm a local leader, and I signed up for it. I'm not complaining. I love this job, and I appreciate my 4 terms that I've been elected, and I just, I feel the pain for a lot of people here, and I was young and a long time ago. I know it was a long time ago, but I struggled too as I was getting my feet on the ground and getting started. So life is hard, but I do want people to think about it. I care about this community, and I love this community. I was born and raised here, and I plan on dying here. So I think our county is on a good path. We're not exploding in growth like a lot of others. I know some people, when they get stuck in traffic, they think we are. You know, Cherokee County, when I was a kid, was about the same size as Bartow County. Now they've got about 280,000 citizens over there, and we're at 115,000. Paulding County was smaller than Bartow County back when I was a kid. Now they're approaching 200,000. So both of those counties, to our east and to our south, both of them have outgrown us a lot. And you can't even, I mean, Cobb County, look at Cobb, they've really, really exploded in growth, probably doubled their population in the last 20 years. So there's but a lot of people want to come to Bartow County to live, and so there's tough decisions out there, and so we hope that the quality of life remains good here. We don't plan on exploding in growth. I hope that never happens here. It's a manageable type growth that I hope we can manage. I will admit that we have a lot of traffic issues right now, and we're working on them, so I hope it gets better.
I do, because I did want to bring up one other question that almost slipped my mind, water. Because when people are talking about these data centers, they're talking about the amount of water they use. When they're talking about these new subdivisions, they're talking about the amount of water, county water it uses particularly. What are plans, or how is the county going to make sure that everybody still has good water pressure, good water?
Well, to start with, I'm proud you brought that up, but the data centers that are approved in Bartow County and Switch that was approved in the city of Cartersville, all of those data centers will be required to have non-evaporative cooling. You read on social media how one data center building can use 2 million gallons of water a day. We can't allow that. The data center at Springbank that got turned down was going to use only about 15 to 20,000 gallons a day of water. Well, that, you think, well, that's still a lot of water. It's not 2 million gallons a day, and it's about the same amount of water that like a Kroger would use, or one of our big super grocery stores. So that's not a lot of water a day as far as a big company like that goes. So there's different processes they can use to cool. And so data centers have to keep their temperature indoors at around 65 degrees, I understand. So it takes a lot of cooling. One thing they will use is a lot of power. And so the power is up to Georgia Power. That's not a local decision that we can make. If Georgia Power gives them a letter saying that they're able to serve that company, then just like any other company that comes along, we just, we don't get into the fray as far as deciding who can have how much power, and it's a big power user, it would threaten the other citizens. So that's not a role that the county plays. But water is an issue, but we think we, along with the city of Cartersville, is managing our water resources wisely. I think we've got the city of Cartersville and Bartow County together can withdraw about 37 million gallons a day out of Lake Altoona. We're not even quite drawing yet half that much. So, and we're always looking for diversification in our water supply. We bought a couple of quarries. We've got a ground well diversification program going right now. So in the future, we think we'll be taking groundwater out too. So we're going to try to diversify as much as we can our water supply.
And that's it. Thank you very much for talking with me.
Thank you.
Commissioner Steve Taylor.